Hello everybody, my name is the Deuteron Doctor. I know, I'm finally back. It took long enough. Anyways, I'm coming back with 2 videos this week for Splatoon and 1 video for Overwatch. I have rebranded my channel, as you can see. I should show you a screenshot right now. And I'm going to be doing some Overwatch stuff and some Splatoon stuff as well. It's going to be on both games, mostly because right now I'm kind of addicted to Overwatch and I really like the game and it's really fun. So I figured, well, I might as well do videos on it. Even if they don't get a lot of views, I'm hoping that my viewers or new viewers will warm up to them. I'm going to try to talk about Overwatch characters like I do for Splatoon on the how to play, but I don't know necessarily when I'm going to do that because I don't have enough experience with the characters to be able to tell people how to play them yet. I still have to wait for that. And yeah, so today we're going to be talking about a Splatoon weapon. I know I just talked about Overwatch, but we're talking about a Splatoon weapon today. And that Splatoon weapon is going to be the REEF-LUX 450. I cannot remember for the life of me. Let me check what it is right now. Yes, it is called the REEF-LUX 450. I am going to be talking about that today. And I do not have a lot of experience with the tri-stringer or the REEF-LUX. I am just talking about it in a basic understanding of it. I know a lot of people had gripes with me saying that I didn't play the weapons long enough to do a how to play on them. I don't know why my mic cut out, but I said in the original recording, I'm not trying to do a more advanced dive into the weapon. This is how I see that the weapon should play from what I've experienced. And so if you have problems with it, you're more than welcome to correct me in the comments. I will probably tell you my point and the proof behind it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying this is what I understand about the weapon, the REEF-LUX 450. The REEF-LUX 450 is the second of the stringer class weapons. I mean, you could say it was one of the 3, but that would mean you're including the Grizzco stringer, which is not one of the main multiplayer weapons. But anyways, it has pretty short range, and I don't think it's very good for trying to track down people in a 1v1. I mean, yeah, there's certain circumstances where you could be cracked at it, and you could really be good at hunting down people with the REEF-LUX 450. But generally, it's not really a bow that I would recommend using in a 1v1 sense. It's more of a support weapon, and it can paint very well, but I don't think that it's granted enough power to be able to be a 1v1 weapon, even if it is the shorter, faster version of the tri-string. Its charge speed is pretty good, and it can still one-shot, which is great, and its mobility is okay at best. I don't think its mobility lends it to be a 1v1 weapon because it really is a limiting weapon for how small it is. You see the NZAP or the splatter shot, which are really around the same like bulk, not the same like height or width, but the same bulk, like roughly the same amount of material is made to make that weapon. So you would think that it has just as much movement capability, but from what I can tell, it doesn't really because of its strafing speed being slow. Now, granted, I know the splatter shot strafing speed isn't great, but you can do a lot more with it. It has more range, or roughly more range, and it does more damage faster. It's more of a support weapon than it is a brawler or a skirmisher or what have you. Other than that, it is a good painting tool, and it can help fights, but you have to play in one of 2 different ways. The first way that you can play the tri-stringer is like a trickster, I guess. I'll call it the trickster. You can set up bombs, and you can use your tri-stringer to combo with those bombs. Let's say you have an enemy that's around a corner, and this happened to me while I was playing. And say you have an enemy around a corner. You throw a bomb, and you bounce it off a wall, and it hits them, but it doesn't kill them. Well, you can then pop around that corner or the other corner and sandwich them between a bomb and you, so they get hit by your bullets and they get hit by the bomb, meaning that you splat them. That can be a way you play it. You can try to trick your enemies into thinking you go one way with the curling bomb, and you can often trick them enough to be able to sandwich them between them, like I said before, with a bomb player sandwich. You can do that, which you're going to need to be pretty slick, and you're going to have to be pretty good at dodging to do that. And the other way is applying pressure, and I did this as well in my gameplay. The other way of playing it is to apply pressure. Applying pressure meaning paint mid as much as possible. Don't be in the front lines like I did. I died a lot because of it. Be the painting for your skirmishers. Let's say your skirmishers, they don't paint very well. Basically, what I'm trying to say is if you have a skirmisher that doesn't paint a lot, you can support them in the fight. While you might not do a lot of damage, you can easily outpaint most other weapons, except for, let's say, the big swig roller and a couple others. But you can mostly outpaint weapons very easily as well. So you can support your skirmisher by painting and throwing bombs in certain directions, trying to set up a trap for the enemy. Now, granted, this does have some drawbacks, which is you are using 2 people to fight 1 or 2 people, which still takes away from your team's overall pool of 4 people, meaning you have less firepower against the other teammates, especially if you're doing a 2v1. But if you win that fight, then you have a 4v3. So the benefits are there, but you have to know what you're sacrificing by helping them in the first place. Now, granted, some weapons you have to have a helpful support to do that with. The next thing we're going to talk about is the kit for the REEF-LUX 450. The kit for the REEF-LUX 450 is curling bomb and tenta missiles. This weapon was set up to be a special spammer. Everyone knows this, but Nintendo did the right thing and nerfed it. So now you have to play it one of those 2 ways that I said before. Now, granted, its kit hasn't been changed, so you can still potentially spam specials with it. And yeah, you could say that's a 3rd way to play it, but I like to think that spamming specials is annoying, and I think most players also agree with me on that point. And special spam isn't exactly good for a game in the first place. Its kit is very good for my trickster class, I guess, of REEF-LUX that I said before. It's also good for support. You can help your skirmishers get someplace faster. And it's just an overall decent kit. And the tenta missiles, they help apply pressure. So that helps your support type of play style with the REEF-LUX. Overall, I think the kit fits. Could it have a more aggressive kit? Yes, but it wouldn't work if the weapon is how it is currently, which is a bit slower than most people would imagine it is. Also, while I'm on the kit section, let me tell you about its painting capabilities. Now, painting capabilities, you have to really nail your timing with stringers. You can't just spam fire like you can the Splatanas or rollers or Brellas or anything. You can't do that. You have to have a certain rhythm to the weapon to be able to maximize its paint output. Its paint output is pretty fast. I don't know the exact rhythm it is. I can't do it exactly because otherwise I'd be lying about what the rhythm is if I got it wrong. There's a high chance of that. So you'll see. I'll put a demo of me painting. Now, granted, it's very hard to get that rhythm down when you're in a fight. You're really excited. You're moving all around. You could get stressed out, and that can affect your rhythm. As someone who is very invested in the music and has been playing music all his life, the best way to get the rhythm down perfectly not only is to practice it, apply it in battles, and also keep calm. There's nothing better, and this works for even just playing the game. Remember to always keep calm during fights. You might see me on live streams shouting and everything. I don't really get mad at games. That's not my thing. Unless like I'm just super stressed out or tilted a certain day. I don't really get mad at games. The best thing you can have as a nice tool for your arsenal is being calm. That'll help you with painting output, especially for this weapon and the tri-stringer. The next thing we're going to talk about is abilities that I recommend for the weapon. Now, the weapon is very slow, and it doesn't go through a lot of ink. The best ability overall is swim speed, especially if you want to play aggressively. Now, granted, I still don't think it has the capability to be, but that trickster playstyle that I talked about before could benefit greatly from some swim speed up. The next thing I would say, and this is if you want to do special spam, but not necessarily applicable if you're doing the trickster gameplay style or a more support-like gameplay style. Special charge up is good. Quick respawn, I would sort of side suggest it, mostly because you don't have a lot of range in this game, especially with this weapon. And currently, what I see, even if the balance changes have changed what weapons are viable even a little bit, I still see a general census that says longer range weapons are at an advantage. So that's why being aggressive right now isn't exactly viable, as well as, its lack of movement speed. So if you play aggressive, you're going to want some quick respawn. Sub power up could help you, especially if you use that trickster gameplay style. Sorry, I keep saying trickster gameplay style in succession over and over. It's really applicable. Another thing is going to be last ditch effort. That will help your bomb output for the trickster style. That will help your paint output because you won't have to refill ink as much. It will help your paint output because you'll refill ink faster. It's just an overall decent ability, and most people use it, so I mean, it's not a surprise that I'm recommending it. Another thing I could see for REEF-LUX for that trickster gameplay style is thermal ink. So you can track your enemies, and you could set up bombs or could trap them. Like I said before, you can really confuse your enemies into basically following what you want them to do and to fall into your trap with thermal ink, because you can track them a little bit better. Other than that, that's all the kits I recommend for the REEF-LUX 450. The next thing we're going to be talking about is the maps that I recommend for the REEF-LUX 450. The stages I would recommend for the REEF-LUX 450 are going to be stages that have a lot of cover and stages that have a lot of movement paths to different spots. So if you have a lot of splits or columns or bouncers or blocks or what have you that you could climb around or go around or use as cover, those are going to be good for the REEF-LUX 450, especially because it will help set up bombs in different paths to trap people in. So the stages I would recommend, I think Eeltail Alley would be a pretty good stage for the REEF-LUX 450 because of the fact that it has a lot of diverging paths. I mean, yeah, you could say it really doesn't. It only has the bridge and like the bottom, but you can climb around and go through a lot more areas than you can with other maps like Hagglefish Market, for example. Because Hagglefish Market, yeah, you have some divergent paths, but there's nothing that separates much. You have that little tiny platform in the middle of the stage, so that doesn't really help you set up anything, especially because it's just so tiny it wouldn't even protect you if you wanted it to. So Eeltail Alley I would recommend because of its variation in paths and its splitting up or divvying up of the path with those blue bouncer things in the middle of the stage. I don't even know if they stay blue, honestly. They're the bouncer things in the middle of the stage that can't ink. Those help divvy it up, and that's, in my opinion, what makes it a good stage, especially the side areas that are easy to climb but hard when you're trapped in a corner. You could use those to set up a trap as well. The next thing I would say is Undertow Spillway. And I know Undertow Spillway doesn't have as much protection from shots as Eeltail Alley does, but it has those side areas on the right of each person's or each team's spawn that can help set up traps, especially that ramp that goes up to that low height area to the right of the spawn, and it can help set up traps as well because you're always on low ground. So if you can trick somebody into going onto low ground, you have a higher chance of winning that fight. The next thing I would say is a good stage is going to be Museum d'Alfonsino. Now, granted, this is mostly dependent on what weapons you're facing. So if you have short range weapons, yeah, I would probably recommend Museum d'Alfonsino. But if you have long range weapons that can apply pressure really easily and can look around corners pretty easily as well, I wouldn't recommend it. It's mostly because it has a lot of verticality, and that really accentuates the fact that long-range weapons are kind of the meta right now. So you don't get a lot of bang for your buck on Museum d'Alfonsino unless you have shorter range weapons that can't as easily apply that pressure. The next thing I would recommend is probably going to be Sturgeon Shipyard, because you have that underpass under the bridge. You have a lot of walls you climb, and you can get a little bit more range out of your bow. You can use the bombs to apply pressure to mid really easily without having to dive yourself into mid or throw a bomb arching over. There's lots of places you can trap people, like the side areas that are down low. While yes, people could climb up them, you could easily bounce a bomb off the back wall back there and just bounce it back and kill the person that's climbing the wall. The next stage I would recommend is probably going to be Flounder Heights. Flounder Heights is good because there's so much verticality that it has the opposite effect. And while yes, long range weapons do good on this stage, they don't overreach their welcome. They don't overstay, because shorter range weapons, while they can't easily shoot up and down the walls as easily, and they can't shoot long range as easily, they can apply more pressure because they have 1.5 million ways to get around. There are so many walls in Flounder Heights and so many different paths and areas you can take that Flounder Heights is a great stage for, I think, all weapons except for maybe a few. That's really all I have to say for stages. The next thing we're going to talk about is modes. If you are playing Clan Blitz with a REEF-LUX, I don't know why you would. I understand that the curling bomb is there, and yeah, it's possible. It is possible to be very aggressive with it, especially if you have a lot of swim speed and you use that curling bomb a lot to get very far distance really quickly. But I don't think that the weapon itself grants you to win a lot of Clan Blitz, because it doesn't apply pressure very well unless you are, again, trying to be a support, in which case it could work. There's situations where it could work in Clan Blitz. Do I think it's a Clan Blitz weapon and you should definitely be playing it? No. It's better depending on the situation. Rainmaker, I think it has some potential for Rainmaker, yes. I think it could apply some pressure to the Rainmaker player themselves, the person that's holding it. I think it could help paint for the Rainmaker and make a path. The curling bombs can also do that. So I think it has a lot of versatility when it comes to Rainmaker. Yeah, it might not be able to pop the shield as fast, but it has enough mobility that it can lend to other players. It can very much just give mobility to other players just from its pure painting power, and if they play it right, they can easily net your team a win. The next mode is going to be Splat Zones, and Splat Zones, it depends on the stage. If the stage has a lot of cover, yes, like the stages I recommended. If those had a lot of cover, if those stages had Splat Zones on them, I would say yes, definitely, probably a really good weapon for Splat Zones. But if you have something that's super flat, like Hagglefish Market, while you can paint the zone very fast, it doesn't exactly give you any cover, and you can't hide from weapons as much as you can on other stages, so it kind of leaves you out in the open, and you are more prone to being splatted or picked off by longer range weapons that can apply more pressure. So the stage context matters. Not weapons as much, but the stages, I think, matter a bit more for Splat Zones than the weapon makeup themselves. I mean, unless you have Big Swig Roller or E-Leader, in which case, yeah, the weapons do matter, but most weapons are okay for facing the REEF-LUX as long as you have a stage that the REEF-LUX can move around without being punished. And the last game mode that I'm going to talk about, because it is the last game mode, is Tower Control. This depends on, again, I think the stage makeup and the path that the tower makes to get to the other side. If the tower makes a path that has a lot of cover, or you're higher than the enemy and they can't quite get up to you, I think yes, it has a lot of use, especially for riding the tower. If it doesn't, I think that stage would matter more, because if the tower doesn't give you a lot of cover, you're definitely not going to be riding it, especially as a REEF-LUX 450. I would say try to be a off the tower player, try to trick people into backing up from the tower with your bombs and your weapon. Now, granted, it's going to be hard to do that with just you off the tower, but you usually will have at least one skirmisher or frontliner that you can use to support and win team fights or one-on-ones or 2v1s or what have you. And you can also play around the tower to use that as cover from other things like bombs or players' fire or specials or anything else. So you can also do that. So that helps a lot for tower control. Overall, the REEF-LUX 450 is probably the most complex weapon I've covered on this channel so far. I know my videos have probably gotten a lot longer because right now this recording is at 29 minutes and 30 seconds, but that's only because I've been trying to analyze weapons a lot more and trying to juice more information out of them so that you guys have a better understanding. Now, I know I'm not trying to go super in depth because otherwise we'd be here for hours, but I am trying to get a basic understanding and at least give some details so you're not lost when I say, oh, just aim and you'll be fine. You know, you have to have some sort of context for when and how to do that. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sorry if I say this at the end. Please like and subscribe because I'm trying to get to a point where I can collab with YouTubers and I want to be able to do that in the future. Yeah, just trying to make the most out of my time here on YouTube. So if you could like and subscribe, that would be amazing. My name is the Deuteron Doctor, and I will see you later. Bye.